Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk topwaters and more specifically springtime slash spawn time topwaters. Because if you're using the wrong topwater bait during the spring and around the spawn, you're probably not getting as many bites as you should be. And honestly, a topwater bait is one of the best baits that you can throw during the spring. So we're going to dive into this. Before I do, though, I want to remind you that I've got a members only channel. So if you want more content from me, additional videos, monthly live stream, and you want to hear some gossip within the industry, check out the live stream that I do. A great way to get additional content from me. And if you want to support the channel and you need to purchase some tackle, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. I'll put that in the video description for you. You can go ahead and bookmark that for future purchases as well. Everything I make from that comes right back into making content for you guys, which hopefully helps us all learn how to catch a few more bass. All right, so let's talk springtime crankbaits, or topwaters. Topwaters have a lot of different variations. You've got your fast-moving topwaters, you've got slow-moving topwaters, and you got pretty much everything in between. Well, I firmly believe that if you're using faster-moving topwater baits, you're not getting as many bites as you should be. The biggest reason for that is the majority of the fish that are up shallow are really thinking about the spawn, and they're starting to kind of create home base areas or even beds. And when they do that, they become very territorial. So they can be very aggressive towards a topwater bait, but they generally are not chasing that bait for long distances. And a lot of times they're not necessarily chasing the bait to eat it, they're chasing it to push it away from the area that they're territorial over. So if you're using baits like a quicker moving walking topwater bait or a buzz bait, like a Berkley Chopo, those a lot of times are not your best baits to use during and around the spawn. And the reason for that is simply it moves out of the strike zone too fast. So in my opinion, you're much better off choosing a topwater bait that stays in that strike zone much longer. So generally you're talking about more of your twitch style baits, your poppers, your baits that are going to stay in that strike zone. I call them target orientated topwater baits because you throw it at a target and you fish it for 10 or 15 feet past the target. At that point you reel it in, you make another cast to another target. So let me give you some of my absolute favorite baits that I have tied on during the springtime. One of the best baits that you hear all the time talked about during the pre-spawn into the spawn is going to be your wake bait style baits. So this is an old school bomber long A. The old bombers definitely have a die-hard following. There's something about them that generates a lot of really good bites and draws fish to them. Now I will say I personally have three colors that I primarily throw. This is a Berkley Surge Shad. This is another really good wake bait that is produced these days. The bombers, you can get a bomber, but it's the old school bombers that everyone seems to really like. But these are kind of the three color variations. I really like, for your low light periods, a black colored one. And then for your bright sunny conditions or days where you've got a little bit more just light in general, that's when I like to go with either the pearls or just the chrome colors. But generally speaking, if it's low light conditions, I go with the dark color. If they're a little bit more natural, lighter conditions, I like to go with the chrome or the pearl. But these baits tend to generate really good strikes. And one of the reasons for it is you have to work them at a very slow speed. Generally speaking, it's a tantalizing bait that draws the fish to it. So anytime I'm fishing during the springtime, I'm going to have one of these tied on. Not only are they really good for working around cover, they're also really good at just working out a little bit deeper because they have drawing power that brings fish up that are not necessarily spawning yet, but they're kind of moving back into some pockets or into some bays, up on some flats. It's just a really good bait. Another bait that I absolutely love to throw are some of your smaller poppers. So this is one I just took out of my tournament box. This is the straight black, just a Rebel Popper. The standard size, not the Magnum size or the big P70, just the standard size. Now, a lot of times I like throwing a smaller sized topwater during the spring for two reasons. One, it's a lot less intimidating. And two, a lot of times the fish won't necessarily destroy it. They'll come up and just barely suck at it. And if you got a smaller topwater bait, generally that gives them a better opportunity at inhaling that bait into their mouth. So I feel like I get better hookups. But a small popper like this guy is an absolute dynamite one to be throwing, because you can throw it to the target, pop it, and you can let it sit for as long as you want. Sometimes it takes 5 seconds, sometimes it takes a second. But the reality is you can suspend this right over their head. So a small popper is a great one. Along those same lines, one of my other favorites to throw is just what I consider a twitch bait. So this is an old school, or just a Rapala floating minnow. But the floating minnow, again, is a great twitch bait. You can twitch this on the surface and just let it sit over their heads. I'll throw anything from the standard 4.5 inch size. I believe that's what this one is. It doesn't say on the lip, but I'll actually fish them all the way down to a really small floating size. This is like a little, what, 2.5 inch size. Just a real small little one that you can twitch right over their heads. And it just seems like they don't want that. They find that to be a nuisance, and they'll go up and they'll bite it literally just to push it out of the area. And then the last style that I really like to throw is something along the lines of a Berkley spin rocket, you know, a prop style bait. And again, it's very similar in terms of it being a bait that you can suspend right over the fish. So in this case, you know, you've got a bait that you make small twitches and you get really good sputtering motion out of those props. And what that does is, one, it creates a motion that looks a lot like fleeing little bait fish like fry, but it also creates that little bit of a motion that will trigger those fish. So as the bait's sitting there, you still have a little spinning motion out of the prop, and it just seems to generate strikes from fish that are in and around the spawning areas. So those are the baits that I truly love to throw during the spring. Catch some absolute giants that are up shallow. You'll catch both the males and females using any of these techniques. And I think a lot of people really miss the boat on this. A lot of people don't start throwing topwaters until this post-spawn period and into the summer. The reality is, though, these slower moving baits generate some phenomenal action during the springtime. So when you've got water temps that hit like the upper 50s all the way up through the spawn, that's when you want to be throwing these. Once the spawn's over, a lot of times that's when you can start switching over to your faster moving baits and walking topwaters, because those are going to allow you to cover a lot more water, and you get fish that are starting to key in on some shad. They're just out roaming around looking to feed, and that's where those faster moving baits work. During the spring and around the spawn, you want to throw a topwater bait that can stay in and around the targets that they're holding in. So hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.